Fandom, right? Great place to get additional content for stories you like, from fan art to fan fiction, and discussions about those stories with like-minded nerds who love the story as much as you do. But what happens when the thing you're obsessed with doesn't have a fandom? And I'm not talking about a niche fandom here. I mean no fandom. At all. Because the thing you're obsessed with doesn't even exist yet. Because it only lives in your brain, and you need to make it yourself. Hi there, my name is Cat Potato, the Caffeinated Potato, and I am so very normal about my characters. Now, I know I'm not alone in this. It is basically the story of every creator's life, that they have passion projects they really, really want to do, but actually working on it is easier said than done. For me, currently, that project is Undying Bonds. The fantasy adventure webcomic that I've been brewing in my head for a few years, but I've only really gotten serious about developing within the last few months. I'm still figuring out the actual plot, but I'm hoping that I'll be ready to start making pages by the end of this year. That's the goal I'm aiming for anyway. I'm excited, but I'm also worried that I'll lose steam in that time, or get distracted and move on to a whole new creative project like I have so many times in the past. And then, right when I needed it most, I saw JayTheDevGuy's video on this very topic, and that gave me an idea. The world and plot of Undying Bonds is genuinely not ready yet, but the characters are very well developed in my mind. And I really enjoy both ABD Illustrate's Concept Corner series, as well as watching GinjaNinja go absolutely feral over their character Apollo. So I thought, what if I tried that too? I'm not expecting this to blow up or anything. Both Alex and June had been doing YouTube for years and built up a following before they made their respective series. There's a damn good chance that I'm just talking to the void right now. But fuck it, you gotta start somewhere, right? And in the off chance that I can actually get a couple people other than my close friends interested in my characters and excited to see this webcomic, then I think that would go a long way. So, even though it is honestly terrifying to put myself out there like this, I am here to info dump about these characters I love so much. So without further ado, I present to you the heroes of Undying Bonds. Undying Bonds is a D&D inspired action-adventure fantasy story with a dash of steampunk thrown in. It follows 4 adventurers as they hunt bounties, fight monsters, and uncover mysteries surrounding these undead abominations that keep cropping up. Undying Bonds is mostly ensemble cast, so there's not really a main character, but the closest to filling that role would probably be Oriana. She's the de facto leader of the group, in large part because she's the only one of the 4 who can actually talk to people without social awkwardness getting in the way, but also because she likes control. She prefers when things are predictable and go smoothly, which means she naturally gravitates towards planning and strategy. She's not necessarily against being a follower per se. She doesn't mind listening to someone else's plans if they can provide that comforting structure Ori relies on. But Ori is the only one of the group actually willing to put in that effort, so she takes on the role of leader herself. And as the group's resident mage, she is the most well-versed in how magic works in this world. Her specific magic tends to center around a phoenix motif, so fire-based magic for attacks, as well as some limited healing abilities. And, for unknown reasons, the story's villains seem very interested in those magic powers. Unlike most main characters with fire-based powers, Ori is not especially hot-headed, and is actually pretty good at keeping a cool head for the most part. She can get a little bit short-tempered when she's overwhelmed, but she tries not to express that frustration in favor of remaining calm and polite. Presentation and first impressions are everything to her, a mentality instilled in her by her family. Oriana comes from a very powerful and influential noble family of mages, who all possess a hereditary magical ability. And like most wealthy families in fiction, they are assholes who have left Ori with a heaping mess of issues. As the eldest child, and thus the heir to the family, she had a mountain of expectations placed on her that were impossible to meet. Her younger brother, however, was free from those expectations, which allowed him to be viewed as the golden child, the one who wasn't constantly falling short and disappointing their parents. In their parents' eyes, Oriana couldn't do anything right, and her brother could do no wrong. Basically like the dynamic between Zuko and Azula, but less violent. But Ori's main grievance with her family isn't because of how they treated her, because she hasn't yet internalized that her not meeting their expectations wasn't a personal failing on her part. No, her main issue with her family was how they used their inherited magical gift, or rather, how they didn't. Their founding ancestor, who made a name for themselves and established their family as a powerful influence, was a hero, someone who used their power to help people. But Oriana's immediate family only cares about honing that ability to use as a status symbol and gain more power within a magicratic government. Oriana felt as though her family wasn't honoring the values of their ancestor. So she decided to leave her family behind and become an adventurer/bounty hunter, so that she could help protect people in the dangerous world they live in. Escaping the suffocating expectations of her family gave her room to discover her own identity, including gender identity. But she still couldn't escape her own self-imposed expectations, thanks to her biggest character flaw that her family ingrained in her: perfectionism. See, Ori holds herself to unreasonably high standards, because she was always told that love is conditional and must be earned. Naturally, this sentiment will get disproven to the power of found family, because found family is the single greatest trope to ever exist, and I will die on that hill. But it's going to take a lot of character development for her to unlearn the lessons her family drilled into her. Ori's perfectionism doesn't end with her either. She also holds others to a high standard, and has a bad habit of being very nitpicky when it comes to others. This comes from a well-meaning, if misguided, attempt to be helpful. Because if one must achieve a certain standard in order to be worthy of love and respect, then pointing out others' flaws so they can better reach that standard must be a kindness. After all, that's why her family was always so critical of her, right? Shortly after Oriana became an adventurer, she met Raymon, and the two ended up working together and became a team. They are both very different from each other, but complement each other well. While Oriana is better at talking to people and forming strategies, and is very skilled with magic, she is also a bit of a glass cannon, and that's where Raymon comes in. She is the team powerhouse, whose primary role is to hit hard and take hits. They are a stoneborn, which is basically a large humanoid with rock-like qualities, including very tough, stone-like skin. Because of their natural durability, Raymon can take many hits that the others can't. She is also super strong due to being a stoneborn, which means her attacks with her warhammer can be devastating. At first glance, Raymon's fighting may appear very simple. Just rush in and try to deal as much damage with the warhammer as possible. But dealing maximum damage isn't actually Raymon's goal in combat. Instead, Raymon's goal is to be a big threat right up in the enemy's face, so that they direct all their attacks on her instead of her more squishy teammates, leaving them open to deal damage. Raymon is also the strong silent type, which, combined with their size and stoic face, can make them seem intimidating. But in reality, they are just a huge softie who doesn't really know what to say most of the time. She is a gentle giant, and is really good with children. She also loves small animals, but is terrified of holding them because Raymon is very strong, and she doesn't want to accidentally hurt them. She has far more control over her strength than she gives herself credit for, but the fear remains. They also appear very stoic most of the time, but not because they don't experience strong emotions. Raymon is actually highly empathetic, and feels emotion very strongly, but they just don't know how to process or express that emotion. And when something is able to make Raymon angry, usually when someone she cares for gets hurt, she can be downright terrifying. In terms of background, Raymon's past was actually far more simple and mundane than any of the others. She grew up with a single dad, who later remarried a man who has 3 kids. Raymon absolutely adores their blended family. They never knew they weren't siblings until they met their new step-siblings, but now they would never want to go back to being an only child. That's not to say Raymon's family always had it easy. They are a very low-income family who struggles to make ends meet at times, but they are a happy family nonetheless. And because Raymon had a mostly happy childhood, they don't feel comfortable talking about their problems. When one of the other heroes needs someone to hug or vent to or a shoulder to cry on, Raymon is there to support them. But she would never ask the same from the others, because her problems always seem so small in comparison. What right does Raymon have to ask for support when the others all have had it so much worse? Raymon is the rock that they all rely on. The others all lean on Raymon, not the other way around. So Raymon will not burden them with their tiny problems. Now, while Oriana is the closest to being the main character of Undying Bonds, The introductory POV character is actually Nestor. At the start of the story, Nestor is looking to become an adventurer, and meets Oriana and Raymon in the process. Ori and Raymon decide to help him out, because they feel like he might be a bit in over his head, and might end up getting himself killed, and neither of them really wants that to happen. And they aren't really wrong for worrying about that. Nestor is just a nervous little guy, absolutely riddled with anxiety, but he has a very strong desire to help people that pushes him to be an adventurer, in spite of the danger. He is also a total goofball, and copes with his fear by telling jokes. He may not be all that great in a straight fight, but he makes up for it with his smarts. Nestor is an inventor and tinkerer, and it's with him that the steampunk aspect of the world really shines through. He makes a whole bunch of gadgets to serve various functions to help in fights. And when gadgets aren't enough, he is also very skilled with guns, and is the team's sniper. Now, the question is, why would someone as anxious as Nestor want to do something as dangerous as become an adventurer? Well, when Nestor was young, probably around 11 years old or so, his parents were killed. Either by a monster or a person, I haven't fully decided yet. Either way, Nestor was there and saw it, and felt completely helpless during the whole thing. Afterward, he went to go live with his Aunt Minerva. Now, Minerva was kind to him, and genuinely cared about him, but she wasn't exactly the most emotionally available due to being so focused on her work, as well as her general personality. She is an inventor, and makes a living by selling various things she made, often through commissions. She couldn't really put that business on hold if she wanted to continue to pay the bills, but she also didn't want to leave this traumatized child home alone all day, so she came up with a solution. She would just make Nestor her apprentice, and have him help out around the workshop. It worked great. She got to continue her work even more efficiently than before with the extra help. Nestor was happy to be able to spend more time with her, and Nestor got to learn useful skills and build a good work ethic. It was a win all around, really. To try and make up for the fact she had no idea how to comfort children, Minerva made Nestor a little robotic owl to serve as an emotional support animal. Nestor loved it, named it Budgie, and still keeps it around to this day. As he got older, Nestor resolved to become an adventurer so that he could help others, because he didn't want anyone to feel as helpless as he did when his parents were killed. And this wasn't something he chose on a whim. He began learning to shoot as a teenager in preparation, and finally decided he was ready once he was 20 and had gotten really good at shooting. However, Nestor and Minerva actually had a massive argument about it when Nestor was getting ready to leave, because she did not approve of any of it. After all, Nestor was the only family she had left, and she couldn't bear to lose him. But Nestor was determined, and because he was an adult, there wasn't really anything Minerva could do to stop him. So, Nestor left, even without Minerva's approval. For all his determination, Nestor was actually very anxious about the whole thing. After all, it is dangerous, and sure, Nestor had developed skills that could be useful for adventuring, and yes, he fully believed in the cause, but what if that wasn't enough? His fight with Minerva certainly didn't help boost his confidence in his abilities either. Nestor was very grateful that Oriana and Raymon decided to help him out, and let them join their little team. His skills were best used as support for others anyway. Maybe that's all they'd ever be. Maybe he should just be satisfied with that. Maybe Nestor was foolish to believe that he could ever be as capable a fighter as any of the others. Frost joins the party pretty early on in the story, and is so shrouded in mystery that it makes it difficult to talk about him without getting into spoilers. Frost is the Lancer to Oriana's leader, and as such is her foil and opposite. Whereas Oriana comes from a prestigious family, Frost grew up on the streets, abandoned by his parents. He also puts Oriana's politeness to the absolute test because he is such a little shit. He is rude, swears like a sailor, and is just generally difficult. But his householdy nature is mostly just a defense mechanism, because he has massive abandonment issues. He fully expects that everyone will leave eventually, so he pushes them away first so it won't hurt as much. Yes, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but he's been burned before and can't risk that happening again. Frost used to have a little gang of fellow street urchins who would all work together to steal things to survive. This crew was like found family to Frost, and he would stick with them through thick and thin. Turns out, they would not do the same for him. After an especially ambitious heist went very, very wrong, Frost's friends left him behind to save themselves. That was the day Frost learned the truth of the cold, unforgiving world. That the only person you can trust is yourself, because no one else ever stays along. When Oriana, Raymon, and Nestor first meet Frost, they all end up working together to defeat one of the undead abominations I mentioned before. Frost seems to have encountered one of these strange creatures before, but he's a little sparse with the details. After defeating the creature, Frost kinda just attaches himself to the group. He just starts following them around everywhere, without them exactly inviting him to. Again, he doesn't really explain why he's so interested in joining the group. After a bit, the others just kinda accept this as a thing that's happening and roll with it. After all, Frost does have some helpful abilities. He relies most on his speed and agility. He's never in the same place for long, and is always on the move during fights. He can create these shadowy blades that he can use in both melee range or use like throwing knives for a little extra range. I'm also thinking he has some sort of limited shadow teleporting ability, but I haven't fully worked out how that's going to work. But Frost has his own reasons for sticking around the group, even if he doesn't explain them. It's just a means to an end, really. It's just a temporary deal. Once he gets what he needs, he'll leave. Because he's not going to get attached. Because that would just be stupid. It doesn't matter how nice they are to him, or how they seem to actually care about him in spite of his attitude. He's fine on his own. He's better off that way, because no one ever stays for long. I hope you guys enjoyed my ramblings. These characters mean so fucking much to me, and it's both super exciting and nerve-wracking to show them off like this. But I love hearing about other artists' characters, and I know I'm not alone in that. So, if you've watched to the end, please consider leaving a comment. It would genuinely be great to know that making this video was worth it, and I didn't endure having to listen to myself talk just for the video to get lost in the void of the internet. Either way, I don't plan on stopping here. I have a few other video ideas in mind, including a couple animatics and a challenge or two, and maybe some other videos in the meantime, because those animatics are going to take me a while. If any of that sounds interesting, you should subscribe to get notified when I post next. I'm hoping to get at least one video out per month. Anyways, hope I see you later.